Our next guest is Mr. Christopher Hajec, who is the Director of Litigation for the Immigration Reform Law Institute. And Christopher has done extensive work litigating the issue of sanctuary cities and fighting with these sanctuary cities to get them to obey the law. And tonight, there's a lot of amazing stories we have about reports that there's going to be a big crackdown on sanctuary cities, that the federal government is about ready to smack California right in the mouth here over the issue of sanctuary cities and crack down on the various cities in California. We've got these just some crazy stories about the California officials basically like looking to go toe-to-toe with the federal government. Christopher, welcome to the program this evening.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Christopher, tell us about, I know that you've been involved in this issue with sanctuary cities for quite some time. We have got this story of the Attorney General of California, which is where we are broadcasting from tonight, my co-host Joel Pollack and myself, is actually threatening to prosecute employers who assist the federal government authorities in an illegal immigration crackdown. Anybody that works with the federal government to, signify somebody who's here illegal. And we also have the mayor of Oakland, California, that city of Oakland, vowing to go to jail to protect the sanctuary city policies in Oakland. We have, it's just, these guys are going, ready to go to the mat to defend all this. What is the legality here? Do they even have a legal leg to stand on?
Well, as a legal matter, sanctuary policies are acts of rebellion by states and cities against the federal government, against America as a whole. They go against the entire structure of the Constitution, and for that reason, they're destined to fail in court, and I think at the ballot box too. If Becerra does one prosecution of an employer who cooperates with ICE, that case will be appealed all the way to the Supreme Court, and that part of the sanctuary law will be overturned. So is this just a bluff that the Attorney General of California is making this, saying that I'm going to prosecute you guys? The rhetoric is very heated. He wants to. I'm not saying it's a bluff, but whether he'll actually do it, I don't know. The rhetoric's very heated. About I will gladly go to jail.
Gladly.
But to support these sanctuary policies and oppose the government enforcing the national law. I don't know if it approaches pre-Civil War levels, but it's the kind of rhetoric that was used in the Civil War. But it's very heated, and it's a real act of rebellion by these jurisdictions, and they just don't want to submit to federal law, even though federal law is supreme in the Constitution.
Can I ask you now? One of the things that the mayor of Oakland is on video saying in an interview, she says, "quote, we are exercising our legal right to be a sanctuary city and to protect our residents. The fact that the federal government is suggesting that it is actively retaliating against jurisdictions that are exercising their right to have sanctuary policies, that is what is illegal."
Well, it isn't right. In a case my organization is doing, we're suing Gary, Indiana, over its so-called welcoming ordinances. And one of these ordinances tells police that they have to do everything they can to avoid arresting a criminal suspect, someone who otherwise would be a criminal suspect, who appears to be an alien because of the immigration consequences. So that kind of thing is totally illegal. It violates the Equal Protection Clause because Americans don't get this special treatment.
Yeah, where you can't be arrested. Now, there's another thing interesting. The thing that this Oakland mayor said, she claimed that she was instructing the illegal aliens who are here that they don't have to answer their door or respond at all if the federal authorities come. They could just hide away, or is she just making this stuff up as she goes? What's going on with this? Did you hear this?
She said this to who?
She said this in to the reporter. she said that, she's instructing the people in her jurisdiction that they do not have to even answer the door if the federal authorities come and request their paperwork or anything. She's just basically calling on them to completely civil disobedience.
Yes, and it's civil disobedience. They could be charged with harboring if they conceal an illegal alien in a building. I'm sure the advice is very carefully crafted, so she's not outright advocating breaking the law, but someone would hear that and take steps that would amount to harboring, like putting the illegal alien in a car and making them sit down so they can't be seen and then driving off. That would be shielding, and it's a federal crime.
No, So there's just we're hearing stories about churches basically using their facilities to house illegal aliens in the event of there's any ICE raids. Is that illegal or illegal for them to be doing that as well?
That's harboring too, and which is why churches have generally stopped doing that.
Interesting.
Maybe they're talking about resuming.
Do you have any insight into what these ICE raids that are being reported are happening? Do you have any insight in who they're going to be targeting specifically? Is it going to be criminals who are here, who've committed violent crime, or what?
I imagine that would be high on the list, but it's harder to locate those criminals when when they're not in jail anymore. What's great about detainers and so forth is that they can arrest these people in a safe environment, in a controlled environment in a jail. Out on the street, it could lead to violence, and or in someone's house. I suppose they may have ways of knowing where the criminals are, but they could also end up just, rounding up other people in the house who are illegal and they aren't criminals. And
let me ask you about the politics of this. We heard Steve Bannon talk a lot about nullification, the idea that the president's political opponents are trying to nullify the 2016 election. But that word also has another meaning in terms of the effort of states to nullify federal laws with which they disagree. And that went back to the mid-19th century. Then you have the Civil War and the civil rights struggle. You see these Democrat-led segregationist Jim Crow states trying to preserve their own system against federal courts and federal policies that wanted racial equality and integration. Now you have the left, and again the Democrats, pushing for an extreme version of states' rights, which they don't believe in any other context. I mean, when they control the federal government, it's all about whatever the federal government can do. But now you have the Democrats essentially trying to nullify existing federal immigration law. This is not new laws, not a new measure. This is existing immigration law that was on the books when Barack Obama was president, was passed under Bill Clinton and whoever else. So how do you see this playing out? Are Democrats backed into a corner here, or do they think that their voters at least will reward them for standing up to the now Republican-led federal government?
Well, obviously they must see an electoral advantage in California for what they're doing, and in individual cities they must see an electoral advantage. And it may also be a fundraising and a activist advantage where the activists will go and work hard for you during the election. I don't see how they could possibly think they're going to win on this issue nationally. It's astonishing the turf they choose to fight on. I mean, we want the criminals to stay in our city. We don't want them deported. We want them back on the street, is what they're saying. And they'll go to the mat for that. And that's just seems almost insane. And then, President Trump tries to protect the country from terrorists with his travel orders. And they go to court over that and make a huge deal over that.
Do you actually think we'll see federal agents arresting some of these public officials? We saw ICE Director Homan suggesting that could happen, and the Democrats clearly see some PR value in that kind of confrontation. They are now styling themselves as civil rights activists when in fact they're imitating the Jim Crow authorities back in the 50s and 60s. I mean, do you think it's going to happen? Are we going to see Libby Scoff in cuffs?
I don't know. I mean, Trump admires Andrew Jackson, and this is best compared to the segregation era, but also to the nullification era. And there's a story, I'm not sure if it's completely accurate, but South Carolina, this is well before the Civil War, wanted to, I think, nullify the tariff, and they said they were going to arrest federal officers who tried to do something. And Andrew Jackson, this is shortly after he had a conversation with the then retired, very old James Madison, who was the father of the Constitution. And he said, anybody who in South Carolina, state official who interferes with a federal officer in the performance of his duty, I will hang him. And Trump's got some of that same spirit, but they're not going to arrest. I don't think they're going to arrest any Democratic politicians.
Do you think this is just basic?
Oh, my goodness.
We were hoping that we could get rid of a couple of Democrats in the state.
I'll take the other side of that bet. I don't know.
Yeah, but you know what? Do you think that?
I don't think they're going. I don't think they're going to arrest them. There are First Amendment protections they have. They can advocate for all kinds of things. They're public figures. They're public officials. They have a broad First Amendment right.
They're not just advocating. They're saying they're going to arrest. This is the state government now saying they're going to arrest local officials if they cooperate with ICE.
They cooperate with the federal government.
So they're now making that threat.
Yeah, and will they arrest them? If they do, that will they will be violating their First Amendment rights, I would think. Well,
a very, very interesting confrontation developing. And, of course, California has now filed, I think, 25 lawsuits against the Trump administration under Javier Becerra. The latest we reported earlier this week was a net neutrality lawsuit. They're filing to repeal the repeal of net neutrality. And they don't have the patience to wait for Congress to debate that. They want to do that in court. Of course, Silicon Valley, big California interest, so maybe they're just acting on behalf of some of the state's big industrial players. But this would be the ultimate confrontation, a confrontation between ICE and California officials. And I got to say, it's going to affect the nationwide debate. I mean, how can it not affect that debate? What effect do you think this might have on these DACA negotiations?
I think it distracts from the plight of the supposed plight of the DACA recipients.
Well, let me ask you. Let me just jump in just really quickly. You had mentioned earlier that the criminals. You described the people that the ICE is going to be cracking down on. So these would probably be the violent criminals that Donald Trump had said are going to be deported. But it seems as if the way that the left is framing this and the way that the media is framing this is that we're just cracking down on ordinary nice folks who've been here for many years and came here as children type of thing. So is that message even breaking through to the media who these people are that are going to be part of this crackdown?
Well, there's a larger world beyond the media. It might not be getting through on CNN. Maybe it's getting through on Fox News. I'm sure it is on Tucker Carlson. And, and there's the web and talk radio. People know that, what Trump is doing and how crazy California is in opposing it.
Okay. Now, there was another case that was really that's making the rounds. It's this Michigan man who was brought here when he was 10 years old, and he was just recently deported, even though he has a wife and a child in the United States. Have you heard about this case it's become sort of a cause célèbre among the Democrats?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that seems rather unusual that he is being deported. He doesn't. They're claiming that he doesn't have any sort of criminal background. Is there what sort of reasons other than that would a person be deported if he had been here for all these years and all of that? Is there something that's fishy about that story? Do you know of anything?
I don't know of any particular facts about that story, but he has a wife and children here. If he's deported, he could always take them with him. I don't know what he does for a living or anything. Usually when you look into these things, there is a very good reason why someone's being deported. But
he's listed as a landscaper, I believe, in the media. So I'm not sure if there's any, so I don't know if there's more to it or whatever. But it's that sort of issue, that sort of case that I think is the one that's being shown as representative of all of these crackdowns. Oh,
they will try to do that. But I think the American people, by and large, think that it's enough that you're an illegal alien. That entitles you to be deported. And it's not that we would never deport anybody unless they did something especially bad. That's the way we treat legal aliens. I mean, lawful permanent residents, if they commit a particular crime, then they get removed. And otherwise they stay. But illegal aliens, when caught at the border, say, crossing the border, they're just, sent back out immediately. And, there's some reason for priorities. If someone's been here a long time and so forth, they're a lower priority. I guess I really don't know what happened in that case, but I don't think that, the American people think that's representative, and I don't think that they have an objection to deporting illegal aliens.
Gotcha. Well, you know what, Christopher, I want to thank you for coming on the program tonight and giving us your take on the whole sanctuary city hysteria crackdown reports. I really appreciate that, and folks can check out your work at your website, the website for the Immigration Reform Law Institute. That is IR. Let's see, what are the acronyms for that, for the website? Can you give us the address really quick?
IRLI.org.
IRLI.org. Thank you so much, Christopher, for coming on the show tonight.